So, I'm going to talk about the present tense in French today. Now, this translates as I do or I am doing something. In French, there's no difference. So you can say I play golf or I am playing golf. In English, you say two different things. In French, you say one. So what I want you to get ready now is I want you to have your verb table ready. So you should have in your booklet the present tense. So press pause if you have to now. Find out where the present tense is and have a look at that because that's really, really, really going to help you. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is what most verbs are in French, and these are what we call ER verbs. 90% of French verbs are ER verbs, and I've got an example here. Jouer, to play. Now it's fairly easy to see why they're called ER verbs because in the infinitive they end in ER. Now, the infinitive is almost like the surname of the verb. If you want to find out what a verb is in French, you think of it in English. Obviously, for example, I want to say I play golf or I play tennis. We look up the word play. Make sure it's got the word verb next to it. If it says noun, it won't be the right thing. Make sure it's got the word verb next to it. And what you can see is this infinitive will come up. It's always translated as to play or to do something. So as in English, we don't necessarily use the infinitive all the time in the sentence. So for example, if I want to say I play tennis, I don't say just get the infinitive and use it, I to play tennis. What I have to do in English is I have to take off the word to and put the word I in. Now this is all very easy if I want to say you play tennis, but if I want to talk about somebody else and talk about he or she, we can't say he played tennis. It doesn't work. So we add an ending on the end. All of this is exactly the same in French, except they just change a little more often and the rules are slightly different. So we've got our infinitive here. It translates as to do something, in this case to play. So our very nice infinitive is an ER verb, which is brilliant because it's the most common type of verbs. So you can pick any ER verb you like virtually, and it should work in this way. So let's imagine that we want to manipulate or what we call conjugate this verb now. So first of all, we have to know all the different types of people who we can talk about. So let's have a quick look at them here. As you can see, you've got I, you singular, or somebody who's familiar to you. So this is one person who you know really well, a friend, family member, or something like that, as opposed to this you down here, which is more than one person. So this is the plural of this. It also can be one person, this version you, but when you're being very polite to somebody or an adult you don't know. He, she, one, we, obviously you plural, and they. So let's see if we can work out who they are. So I, let's have a look at all these people over here, is je. You, when it's singular, and someone who's your friend or family member, tu. He, she, one, il, elle, on. We is nous. You plural is vous, or it can be polite. Il and elle, remember we do not pronounce the S on the end of those words, means they. Obviously, a group of boys, a group of girls, or a group of mixed people. You revert to the masculine. So what we do is we get our very nice infinitive, and just as in English we cannot say I to play tennis, we can't say je jouais au tennis. So what we do is we take off the ER and this leaves us with the stem. This is what we call the stem of the verb. And then we simply add the correct endings. So for je, it's I, je joue. Tu, it's IS, tu joues. Il, elle, en, joue with an I. Nous jouons, ONS. Vous jouez, IZ. Il joue, INT. And as you can probably notice, all of these being highlighted now are pronounced in exactly the same way. Joue, 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 joue. We simply know their different endings when they're written. Je joue, tu joues, il joue, il joue. Nous jouons. Nearly all verbs in the nous form will end in ONS. Vous jouez. A lot of them will end in EZ for vous and ENT or NT for il and elle. So, je joue, I play, or I am playing. Tu joues, you play, or you are playing. Nous jouons, we play, or we are playing. Now, obviously, not all verbs follow this pattern. Many of them will follow a similar one, but not this exact pattern. So I'm going to have a look at a few irregular verbs. When you're looking at your verbs, you look down the list of your infinitives and you check to see if it's an ER verb first of all. It'll tend to follow this pattern. If it's not, then you have a look at the pattern, see if you can find it. And remember, check across because you need to change the ending. And don't talk in infinitives. It doesn't work. Let's have a look at a couple of common verbs then that we come across a lot of the time. So, faire. It means to do or to make in French. So it's slightly different than in English. So remember, let's have a look. You do. Can you remember who you is? That's tu. Let's have a look at they do. You remember which one they is? Il or elle. I've just put the masculine in here. Plural. Do you remember? Is vous. I. Je. We. Nous. And he. Obviously, elle works exactly the same way. So let's see if we can recognize any of those patterns again. Something ending nt. Font. Faites is actually vous. Faisant. ONS. Nearly always. Always helpful to remember. Nous. You can see the ONS there. And it's dead easy to remember then. Fait. And obviously these two remain. Je fais, tu fais, il fait. Nous faisons, vous faites, ils font. Remember, I do or I am doing. Another common verb that we have is aller, to go. So I is je. Tu, you. They, il. Vous is you. We is nous. And il is he. So let's see if we can find the correct verbs that will fit that pattern. So il is going to end in nt. Ez, very easy, nearly always with vous. ONS, very easy with allant. For nous, va, nearly always ends in an S. Je vais, tu vas, il va. Nous allons, vous allez, ils vont. Remember, I go or I am going. So what we do when we have our verbs, we find the infinitive. We either remember the pattern or we follow the one that we know already. So let's have a look. I play football. Well, find the infinitive first of all, which is jouer. Remember, we take off the stem, we decide who the person is, and the ending for je, go back and check if you need to, is I. Je joue au foot. Let's have a look at watching TV. So, find the infinitive, regarder. Look, it's an ER verb again. So, we find the stem, we decide the person, you is tu, sorry. And for tu, the ending is es. So, he listens to music. You see, you can do this one as well. So, find the infinitive, écouter. We find the stem, decide on the person, and add the ending. Brilliant. So, she eats in McDonald's. Let's find the infinitive, manger. Find the stem, get the person, and add the ending. You just got to be careful with manger, especially when you're working in the nous form. You actually keep that E because it makes the pronunciation correct. Now, we go swimming is a difficult one because they actually use faire as their infinitive. Faire de la natation is to go swimming. So, they don't quite follow the same pattern here, but we sort of can find the stem, decide the person, and add the correct ending. Again, we use the verb faire. Now, it's not quite the stem in this sense, but what you do is you find the person, check your ending, check on your verb table. This one's an irregular one. And this one, aller, again, find the person. This one doesn't actually follow the stem at all, so I'm going to get rid of that completely. It follows a completely different pattern. So check your verb table. Have a look at it. Find the verb aller. Go across to find the word they. There. Move on. It's really simple now. So you can just look a verb up and then you can manipulate it, or what we call conjugate it, to the right pattern so that you can say anything you like. Have a go and see how it goes.